Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack. Today is November 13th, and today's episode is going to cover some positive media about Rocket Pool. We're going to be talking about the IMC and GMC voting stuff, some branding ideas that Sleety shared with the community. We're also going to be talking about price action and ETH ETF flows and a whole lot more. So let's get started in this jam-packed episode.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Okay, so we're going to start here with this report from our network, and this is ON290, which is a report just about liquid staking. So let's see, they say that, this is distributed research for distributed networks, and this is about liquid staking. So the first project they cover is actually Jito, which is their number one project here that they talk about, from Solana ecosystem. And then the number two project they're talking about this week is actually Rocket Pool. So they said that, Rocket Pool's staked ETH inflow peaks at 12,500 daily, double the previous year to date high. So obviously what happened here is that they saw that Saturn Zero resulted in a lot of validators, and they kind of picked up on that. So they said that Rocket Pool is currently the second biggest liquid staking participant with a market share of about 7%. The TVL jumped by more than 30% during the last week, from 3.2 billion to 4 billion, and this coincided with a rise in APY, which has been long persistent downtrend and is currently at 3%. Now, that of course has to do with the price of ETH going up and the price of RPL going up, but those are really interesting numbers. I think they're getting the numbers from DeFi Llama though, and there's some problems with the way the DeFi Llama numbers are calculated, in that I think they're still counting exited validators as part of the TVL, but the real numbers here, if we look at the Rocket Watch output, it shows that the total TVL for Rocket Pool is around 2.624 billion dollars or DAI, which is around 800,000 ETH. So of course the ETH price going up has given that TVL a boost. So there's some nuance there to those numbers, but overall, the value has gone up in accordance with the price rises and the stake that is coming online, kind of balancing out with the stake that's leaving. So they said the average node collateralization is at 33%, with average staked in RPL, Rocket Pool's native token at 4,400, and the average amount of staked ETH at 94. At 23%, RETH has the biggest allocation among LSTs, which make up DSETH, a composite of ETH LSTs developed by Index Co-op. So there's some data here, so you can see they're saying that Rocket Pool passes $4 billion, which we just said it doesn't really, but what they're showing here as well is with APY going above 3% for the first time in a while. And it looks like the APY is on the uptrend, which of course is really great to see, and that there's a number of reasons for that, like we've talked about Rocket Fuel before, and that is because of the Saturn Zero rewards tree, but also because of the 192 mini pools that are in the queue are giving it APY boost, and also the fact that the protocol has very little ETH that is ineffective right now. I think we're close to 100% effectiveness. So all of those things together are giving that nice little rewards boost for our ETH. And here they've got a chart showing Index Co-op's DSETH and different tokens, how they're allocated. So we've got RETH making up about 23.3% of the basket. Then there's Theta's ETHX, Wrapped ST ETH from Lido, Swell's ETH, OS ETH from Stakewise, and then there's other as well. So RPL, like they said, that is nearly a quarter of that basket, which is actually really cool. Here they have information saying that the RPL price increased by 20% over the course of last week to $11.80. We're a bit down from that now since this was written. And it says, which coincides with the surge of inflows of staked ETH. And the latter is notable as it nearly tripled in size of the last inflow surge of November 2023. Also, between January 24th and September 24th, there was not a single week with a net inflow. So what they're saying is that the protocol was in decline in that time, but now there was a net inflow here. So if you see staked ETH inflow reaches all-time high amidst RPL price rally, and I think what they mean by all-time highs like in the last year, but that number is like, gone positive and like way off the charts. And according to this, in the last couple of weeks there was some positive flows as well, which is good. And then here they go on to say that Rocket Pool's developer traction increased significantly during 2024, peaking in July at more than 150 daily commits. So this is GitHub activity. It says the number has gone down to around 30 daily commits since then. So that, of course, coincides with the Houston upgrade and the fact that the team was working on getting all of that stuff done, with I guess some community members putting in code there as well. So yeah, that was obviously really great to see. So we're getting some positive information. Oh yeah, and I just checked the source here, and DeFi Llama is the number they're using for the TVL. So of course that number is a flawed number, but overall, like they made a case that Rocket Pool is doing well, and we really need to see more of these positive mentions of Rocket Pool going around, which will hopefully get people to mint our ETH, which will hopefully help the protocol a lot. Okay, next, we kind of talked about this recently with there being a change in the voting style for the IMC and GMC elections, and it looks like Scuzzle and Epinef kind of reached this point yesterday in discussion, talking about how Rocket Pool's voting for these elections should go towards approval voting instead of, giving people different weights of your votes. So, for example, you could approve 5 or 7 people, whatever you want, and then they would get that those numbers would get tallied up based on the amount of your voting power, and those people get selected. So here, Scuzzle says the absence of clear best option for multi-winner RCV, that's the voting type, and the lack of support has me leaning towards approval voting. Epinef says, yeah, I also think approval voting is best for committee elections, maybe with a recommended limit on approvals like 5 or 7, given the social implications of disapproving our friends. And yeah, I think I replied by saying I'd be okay with this, and I think approval voting makes a lot of sense. We actually used approval voting before in the PETH and ETH vote, and at that point, we were able to get the like it worked in that situation, right? And I think approval voting, the way it would work is, you would have there'd be like say 15 people who are nominated, and of those 15 people, you would have say you have to choose 9 people for the committee, but you as a voter would be able to choose 5 or 7, and then the 9 people who get the most number of votes by the end of the voting period, they would get selected on that. And by only being able to choose 5 or 7, that means that you wouldn't necessarily you'd have to disappoint people, and I guess it's just limits those social implications, like Epinef says. So that I think is a really interesting discussion. If you have any ideas of how you want the voting to go, Scuzzle is actively asking people to give ideas for this whole process, because I think that he wants to turn it into an RPIP and get it a forum discussion going about changing it, and hopefully that discussion will go well. Okay, next we're going to be talking about Sleety. So in yesterday's episode, we talked about how, the negative price and sentiment in the community has gotten people talking about rebranding and all that kind of stuff again. Well, Sleety actually came into the Discord yesterday and says that, he says, since there was talk of rebrand today, what do you all think of this less radical facelift? Really, it's just the proposed modernization of the logo. Let's face it, Rocket Pool will always be orange and rockety, and I think the Rocket Pool brand identity is good, reputation is good, the visual elements of the branding that have always been more heavily criticized and can do with significant upgrades. So here he has mark formation. So there's the rocket form construction and the smoke formation, and then he's got different versions of the logo, and I think that logo looks beautiful. The 45 angled and colored, it just it keeps all the themes of the current Rocket Pool logo, the RPL logo, or the Rocket Pool protocol logo, but it just modernizes it, makes it look really beautiful. And then he's got different formats and different colors and gradients and stuff. And what's really interesting is here that people were just kind of showing that they really like his work and how it all looks good. And what he actually added was that this was actually presented to the team. So he said this proposal was rejected by the team last year when they were doing the new website. He says, which is totally fine. He says, I guess I just want to demonstrate that there are ways of addressing the subpar visual branding that Rocket Pool has been guilty of while still retaining core identifiable elements of the brand. And I think, like, I don't quite understand why it was rejected, because some, like, these logos, actually this new logo just looks really beautiful. Like, in comparison, it's just so much smoother and nicer than the existing logo. So maybe if any of the team members are watching this, you all can have another internal discussion, because this facelift, I think, would actually really be good. So get on that. Another thing that's been active discussion in the Rocket Pool community recently is about how to market our ETH and how to market the project, the protocol itself. And Val actually has some interesting ideas about a way that we can kind of create messaging around our ETH. And he says that some of the things that we should be mentioning are things like risk adjusted APY. So he says two of the things that we can focus on are, one is governance. So he says Rocket Pool has better governance than something like Lido, whereas Lido is most of their votes pass with around 6 to 7% of the vote, and there are single wallets who hold 5% of all voting power. He says another thing is slashing risk. So while some protocols have slashing risk, I don't think any of them have as much slashing risk as Rocket Pool does, which is really great to see. Of course, then he thinks the second point that we should be arguing about is ethos. So this is a wildly outsized proportion of the home stakers. So for the amount of stake that we have, the number of unique node operators that we make up is like astonishing. Like, it is unparalleled in the whole of crypto, I'm sure in other protocols as well, not just Ethereum. And then he says that, Ethereum being incredibly neutral makes Ethereum more valuable. So this kind of ties into Rocket Pool helping Ethereum be more decentralized, more credibly neutral, and how that helps Ethereum overall. So that's another way to promote our ETH. And then finally, Val presents this idea saying diversification. So he says having all your eggs in one basket is dangerous. So hold our ETH alongside, whatever other LSTs that you hold. And most of those people obviously would be holding ST-ETH. So if you hold ST-ETH, it might be worth it for you to diversify some of your holdings into our ETH, which of course is what, DS-ETH and those kind of tokens are doing. So I really like these points. I think these are the points that I'm going to start talking about on when I'm talking about our ETH on Twitter and like talking about our ETH in other places. I've already mentioned some of these things, but I think that mentioning them again will actually be really useful and really helpful. So thanks, Val, for sharing that information. Okay, next we got actually like kind of tying on to that. We actually got something funny. This is staking news now. And Halula says, if you ask ChatGPT why Lido is bad, it actually talks about governance centralization in Lido. So here's an output from ChatGPT saying Lido's governance is partially managed by Lido DAO. But large token holders have outsized influence. This setup risks governance capture by a few large stakeholders, which could limit the ability of smaller token holders to influence decisions or direct the protocol towards increased decentralization. So that even ChatGPT knows how it is. So that's really cool. Val actually gave, to talk about the previous point, Val actually gave some interesting numbers comparing Rocket Pool's governance, and he was talking about how the ODAO can be a point of issue for Rocket Pool in a way that might not exist for Lido. But he was also saying that when it comes to voting and on-chain governance, that's going to get better with the Security Council that we're hoping will get activated soon, but also that the amount of people that vote in the Rocket Pool community is a lot higher. Also, people who have votes delegated to them can be overridden. Now, I am the biggest voting block in the community with 2,200 votes, but that is a pretty small amount of the overall amount of votes in the protocol, which is actually really cool. So that, I think all of those things together just show that Rocket Pool's governance hopefully is some of the best out there in crypto land. Okay, sticking with staking news now, here we have this tweet from Ryan Berkmans, who is saying that Bitwise, the ETF issuer, has acquired elite ETH staking operator Attestant, and staked ETH ETFs are closer than ever, and these have significantly better profit margins, and that means a bigger incentive for TradFi to promote ETH. So the idea is, of course, that these ETFs would be feeless, and they'd be feeless because they'd just take a part of your staking reward, and of course they'll be earning yield, and that stake would be run by Attestant. Now this is a double-edged sword. One, these ETFs would probably be wildly popular because they're earning yield, and people love to earn yield on their income, on their holdings. The problem is that we want to worry about the long-term health of Ethereum, and we want to worry about stake concentration and having these big operators like Attestant potentially running billions of dollars worth of stake. I think they already run $3.7 billion worth of stake, which makes them the third biggest node operator, according to their own numbers. So if they get more billions of dollars worth of stake, I think that would become like a big threat. Of course, then BlackRock would have their own service, and Bitwise, of course, they've acquired Attestant. Fidelity would have their own, and the others would have their own services. What I would really love to see is these ETFs holding our ETH, or basically holding our ETH. And with Saturn 1, we're going to massively increase the amount of scale that we have. So having these ETF issuers coming in and just buying our ETH and minting our ETH would give their their ETF people the best LST, in that it's most decentralized and most Ethereum aligned. And on top of that, what they could do is take the yield, and they don't even have to purchase any staking infrastructure or any of that kind of stuff. They just go to stake.rocketpool.net and just mint as many RETH tokens as they want, pretty much, which would be absolutely amazing. But like I said, we still need to see how this is going to go. But I think another thing that we can see here is that the regulatory shift is happening, and people are starting to adapt to it. And it looks like these guys are going to start applying for staked ETH ETF ETFs really, really soon. So that is definitely going to be a potential game changer here. Now, sticking with the topic of ETFs, yesterday we had absolutely incredible inflows for ETH, and this was less than the 11th, where we had 295 million. It was 135.9 million overall, but that is including Grayscale leaking $33.2 million of ETH. But what's happened with this is that the overall flows for the ETH ETFs are now positive, and they are $94.8 million positive. So, a couple of weeks ago, we were $600 million in the red, and since then, that has all been eaten away, and now we're in the positive. So this is the first time we've been positive overall since day one. Day one had, around $600 million of inflows and around $500 million of outflows, so about $100 million total inflow. Since that day, we've been leaking more ETH than we've let in, and now we are in the positive territory. So this is absolutely amazing to see, and hopefully those inflows will keep outpacing the outflows, and we'll start seeing real action, real impact on the price action from this. I think that's going to be really great to see. Now with BTC, the last few days that's had some really, really strong inflows as well. Yesterday was actually a bit of a quieter day for BTC. It was down to 817 million. So, the ETH one was doing around, I want to say 18%, somewhere around there of that amount, which is okay. We want to see it to be higher than that. Ideally, 20, 30, 40%. that would be really great. But Matt Hogan here had an actual very interesting take, and of course he is the CIO of Bitwise, who are an ETH ETF issuer, and he says the ETH ETF inflows are going to surprise people in 2025. He says there's growing institutional demand for ETH exposure. Now he's saying 2025, he'll be like, why aren't they doing it now? I think what happens is, as the calendar year changes, a lot of people change their perspective on like their profit and loss for the year, and I think at that point they want to kind of reallocate funds. And this also happened in 2021, and it's amazing how the cycles kind of repeat or rhyme or whatever you want to say. In 2021, ETH was languishing behind BTC. DeFi tokens were outperforming ETH. There were alt layer ones that were kind of outperforming ETH as well, and people were saying ETH is dead. And then on the first week of January, the markets opened and we just had a huge day. I'm actually going to go back and show you that in a second, but I really think that we're lining up for something very similar to that. And in all honesty, if these ETH inflows continue, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of those numbers even sooner, like the higher numbers coming sooner. But I think the first week of January is going to be really, really huge for ETH, and I'm totally here for it. So let's actually have a look at the market action today. So BTC has hit new all-time highs of 93,265. So it's been an absolute tear this morning. It's up again another 6%. A little while earlier it was even up more than that. ETH sadly has not been performing as well for the last few days. Its price is up, but it's not anywhere nearly as strong as Bitcoin's prices, and that of course it reflects on the ratio. So as we had that pump after the election, the ratio climbed really nicely, but it got rejected on this moving average, and now it's taken a big step back and not too far away from hitting new cycle lows in the ratio. But I think that the Bitcoin just right now is just sucking up a lot of liquidity in the market, and soon I guess the idea is that that's going to distribute and go to other projects and protocols, and I'm hoping that that comes to ETH. But while we're looking at ETH, I would really do want to show you that daily candle back from 2021, and let's see if they actually have it here on Binance, if we can go far back enough. So where is this? Oh, no, that's ETH BTC. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong chart. Sorry about that. ETH USD, and let's go to full screen. We're on the daily time frame, so let's go back all those years. 2021 June, okay, January. Okay, so here, have a look at this. Okay, so this is now 2020. Oh wait, I went too far back. Here we are. So 2021, and have a look at this. So this is December, right? And the close for ETH here was $736 on the 31st, which is the last day of the year. The close was $728. And then on January 1st, we had a nice pump. It was around 10% up to $774. And then on January 2nd, ETH went wild, right? So it closed at $978. Now, that over those 2 days, it basically pumped over 40%. And then in the days after that as well, it went up. Sorry, I said the wrong number. So on the first, it went up 6%. On the second, it went up 26%. On the third, it went up another 6% and closed at 1,041. On the fourth, it went up 6% again and closed at 1,100. And then on the fifth, it went up 10% and closed at 1,208. And then on the sixth, it went up again, and this time just 1% when it closed at 1,224. And then the seventh was the first red day. Now, I am firmly of the mindset that this is going to repeat, and that is just because of people kind of moving their positions around as the new year starts. And I think that that is going to be prime rocket fuel, pardon the pun, for ETH going into the end of into the 2025, which we're kind of hoping is going to be a huge bull market year. So it looks like things are lining up really well, and I feel like the stars are all lining for ETH to just massively outperform from here, and hopefully RPL goes along for the ride. Now, what else are we seeing about crypto being front and center. Right now, we are seeing that the Coinbase app in financial apps has gone up to number 1 financial app, and for all apps is up to number 12. Now, people use this as a kind of top signal, saying that when Coinbase app gets to like number 1 on the App Store, then that means that the top is here and you should sell all your crypto. However, I really do think that this is a shifting environment, and like I've been saying, this is a paradigm shift, and I'm not of the belief that we're going to go into a super cycle or anything like that, but I just feel like things are lining up so well for crypto here. So if you want to sell your crypto, if you're looking at these indicators and you think that things are getting overheated and you want to sell, then go ahead. But I'm and of course, this is not financial advice or anything like that, but I'm not selling here. So yeah, I'm definitely strapped in for the ride, and I got my ticket on the rocket, and I'm not getting off that thing anytime soon. But on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. So thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I hope you all have a lovely day ahead, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.